I go, oh no, it's clipped because the stapler won't staple it. He goes, yep. I'm like, no. Traumatizing from last year after multiple packets. Right?
Yeah, but this isn't, that's not too bad. There wasn't anything,
It's a lot of data.
yeah,
Just,
which is easy, like, that's just easier to read anyway.
yeah.
Just for the record, you are live at the moment,
We are live?
as of 10 seconds ago.
Okay.
But I want to do a quick audio check, just to make sure this is working. Can you hear me? Hi, my name is Justin. Can you hear me, general public?
Yeah.
We're good. Just say hi for me.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay. I will check the audio out there on my phone, but otherwise.
All right, welcome everyone. So this is the workshop for MSA October 2021 workshop, and we changed the venue tonight. We'll see how this works. So, and now we're at the YMCA just across the street. So we'll take a plus or minus at the end of the board meeting to see what we're doing for this location. But yeah. We have 3 topics tonight. So we have the director search answer questions, the reminder on board training, and then development, parent and family engagement policies. So we okay with that for the agenda, everyone? Sounds good. So why don't we go ahead and get started? We've given a lion's share of time to see if you guys had any questions on what the director search committee, and in particular Ms. Anderson, who's representing that committee, has done for our group so far. Do you want to go through, because later in the board, we would like to go through the approval on item 13D, looks like, so we have 4 different items for approval. So if we could talk through questions that we have now, let's speed up the board meeting.
Do you want me to talk through the items, or do you just want me to ask, or do you just want to ask questions to me?
Well, I think talking through would be nice.
Okay,
Because that
sounds
helps, yeah, you've been involved. I read the stuff, but it doesn't have your content.
Sure. So like our goals, so starting on page 115, I think in your packet, it has the salary schedule for the executive director. And so our goals overall were to make competitive salaries for the new person. That was like our main goal. And to look at what other schools were paying, what other public schools, and what other charter schools were paying. And then we had kind of another goal to kind of think about how to make it easiest for the board to be able to look at like years of experience and things like that to come up with a salary. And then our third goal was kind of like, let's look at the salaries we have right now and see if we can like make all these things fit together so that if everyone who stays here or everyone who's here continues, their salaries all work. There's not like overlap or anything like that. So those were kind of the goals that we were kind of looking at as we put all of these things together. So when you look at kind of the salary schedule for the executive director, you can see there's kind of, across the top, there's the years of experience, and then down the side, there's the additional leadership experiences. And so that might be if you were working, as a superintendent someplace else. It might be if you were a CEO of a company. There's a little bit of leeway there, because I actually went through each of the administrators we have right now, and I did the process. And there was like one thing where I was like, oh, would this count? And I thought to myself, well, you know what? That's good that we might have some things where the board can make some decisions like this would count because this would really help at MSA because you have this experience. Maybe this one, no, not so much. But at least there's some guidelines there for you to be looking at so that you can make some sort of determination. And then of course, when it's time for the budget, we have the budget, we know what the numbers could be, what that range is. Thinking about the finance committee meeting, we talked about it a little bit, but obviously we don't put the budget together until, next spring. So we can't necessarily, say yay or nay, but it's not that much different than what we have right now within the range. Looking at the salary schedule for the executive director, there was one change because Kate and Cecilia and I met last week. So we did just make one change. So you have an extra copy and it has like some red on the bottom. Okay. And so I just handed that out. And both of them just thought it was easier to say that the administration should receive raises that are proportional to the teacher raises instead of all the other stuff that we had included. So that's the only change to that document from what you saw in your packet. And then on the back, the assistant director salary schedules are there just so you could see the potential of when there could possibly be overlap. But realize that wouldn't be until someone had worked for like 26 to 30 years, right? And so that's probably not going to happen for a while. Or if they, thinking about their leadership experiences or something like that, that would be the only time that there would be overlap. And obviously, this is just an entry point for the new person. I think that in the future, we could come up with something that would be more exact as far as maybe a little bit more what maybe some other schools have, what they have. But it was just really hard because we have no data to say, this is how we based salaries on in the past. It was just like, I don't know, I have no idea why people got the money that they got. You know, there was nothing there. So to me, this just looks like a place for us to start from. And you know, if you think about somebody starting, if they were 0 to 5 years, you might look at this and say, well, it would take them, you know, 36 years to get to 124,000. Well, that's not the case because obviously there would be raises that would be put in there. And then of course, like the teacher's salary gets renegotiated every 2 years. So then of course, when that comes up for the teachers and the other staff, then we would like take a look at this again for the administration. So thinking about the new person, next spring then, or kind of next winter, would be when we would be looking at it for the staff. So to me, I felt like this was just a good, when you kind of look at the numbers, these numbers worked well to be competitive. They worked well amongst all of the other admin at our school as well. So that's kind of the purpose of that document. I don't know if there are questions right now, or I can move on to the explanation of how we came up with the numbers.
Well, I'm assuming you came up with all the different charter schools that you looked at, right? Is that
Right, right. So you can see on, I think
Yeah, that
it's
was great.
on page 118,
Yeah,
it has the information from Max.
right.
I don't really like the information from Max because it's really broad. When it says 501 students, there's a school that has 1,200 students. So how do we possibly compare ourselves to a school that has 1,200 students to figure out what the administration should be paid? So then on the back of that, on page 117, I just went, there was one place, and it's called, what can I remember what it's called? Well, it's called like figuring, I don't remember what it's called. But there's a website, and so it talks about what every public school or public employee makes. Everyone in the entire nation, not just school teachers or anything like that. So, and the data is from 2020, and they got their data from MDE. So I just went through each of these different charter schools. I went to the charter school page first, and I picked out the ones that were most similar to us. So either they were like 612 or 712, kind of close. I just picked out ones that were 500 and above. Or there's a couple of K-12 ones, but I kind of thought like their size was closer to us. I also picked out some ones that like I thought were like competitive, like I think like, oh, St. Croix Prep, like we're competitive with them, or Nova, or whatever. And then I just picked out a couple of local public schools as well. And so you can kind of see, it has the grades and it has the size of the student population. So like us comparing ourselves to, you know, like Eagle Ridge Academy, well, they have a $5.5 million that they spend on salaries. And what do we spend? Like $1.9 million. You know, so we have to keep all of those different things in kind of in play. And yes, we want to be competitive, yes, we want to be in the range, but we have to keep in mind how many students we have. Of course, if we're looking to expand, we want to be thinking about a little bit further down the road, not just what we do have, but what is some potential, and there's some potential for growth in that director's salary. And then we want to think about, I put what the highest person was in that middle column, and then I just looked at the other administrators, that were there as well and put that there. So I just kind of looked at that data, and when we look at that data, it seems to me that the executive director's salary seems kind of right to be in that range. And the thing is that they're kind of all over the place. So you can't say, well, people who have more kids pay way more. It's not like proportional, it's nothing like that. So that's part of it as well, is that we just have to be able to look at the range and kind of make some decisions as to what works best for our school and what we need. But at least there's some other data for you to look at as to what other schools are paying. And if it says something that's missing on there, like if you look at St. Croix Prep, they didn't have the name of the person on the website. So I didn't want to like skew the data, so I just said missing. I couldn't match up a name to what the number was. So that's kind of what that is.
Great.
So on this data page, the 2020, according to the MDE, that's the salary of the executive director at that school.
Yep, in the year 2020, so it's older, it's not up to date, but that's the most recent that they did.
Another question, if I'm reading this salary schedule right, is what this saying is if we hired an executive director with 1 year of experience and no additional leadership experience, they would get 117. Is that correct? That's the bottom one.
Director.
But if we hired an executive director with 40 years of experience and 4 additional leadership experiences, they would get an $11,000 more than that other person.
Right.
And that's common. Like, that seems really weird to me to have such a small range for such large experience deltas.
Well, the teacher scale is different in the same way, like the difference between years and things, it'll be like $500 a year different and stuff like that. So we just don't have a lot of money, so it's proportional to our working budgets.
And we're probably not gonna get someone who has 36 to 40 years of being an
No,
executive.
I'm just reading the chart and it
director.
just seemed really
Right.
strange to me that
Right.
is such a,
Yep.
like, that's nothing.
Yep.
If you've
Right.
been working
It
for
is.
40 years.
So most.
In anything but I did like charter
So I
schools,
think
yes.
my follow-up question to that is, will this attract talent? Like, is this a schedule, I know you did the benchmarking for some of these other places, but would we consider this competitive to, if we want to hire the very best executive director in the entire United States of America, what would that take? Like, you start
No.
with that ideal, and then where would we be from a school that wants to be at that level?
We could never pay the very best person in the entire United States at this school.
I'm just saying aspirationally, like an aspiration, but then where do we fit kind of in there somewhere? Like what would this, I'm saying this really bad, what would this get us for $128,000?
Well, I kind
You know
of
what I mean?
think, I feel like the people that we have right now are pretty good, and that's the salary schedule that they're on. So it depends, if you're trying to get someone to leave a regular public school to come here, that's super hard, because they're gonna take a pay cut. Every single person who has come from a public school here has taken a pay cut.
Yeah.
$5,000 to $15,000, $20,000. So I'm trying to work with the budget that we have, or at least the numbers that we have.
Yep.
And so if we have someone who's at a charter school, this is gonna be really competitive, you know, because it's more than what most other charter schools are making. You know, if you look, I mean, if you just wanna think about just the average, you can look at what Max put out, that's the one with the blue sheet. And we're above average on the blue sheet. So that's, page 118. Sorry, it's probably not going in your packet, my bad. It's on the back of that sheet you just picked up.
Yeah.
So Max says for the public schools, the charter schools in Minnesota, the average executive director makes 117.
This is
So-
max, you said?
Yeah. And so that's our lowest number. Our lowest number is 117. Now, their highest number is 145. So, but that also might be, you know, a school that has 3 times as much that they spend on salaries as we do.
I'm gonna learn a new acronym every time. What does MAX stand for?
Minnesota Association of Charter Schools.
Thank you. So that's the source that you're citing on this page?
Yep,
Okay.
on this blue page, on page 118.
It'd be nice to have the citation maybe going forward for where this is from. In the packet.
I think it just got cut off, so
Okay.
sorry, I can look it up.
You know, I hear a lot about public school versus charter school, and we tend to be lighter in salaries. Would you say the ratio is the same here? You know, I'm looking at Woodbury High School, East Ridge, South St. Paul, these are kind of the public schools in our area. And they're 10, 15,000 higher. Is that about the same ratio up that a teacher would make at a public school? Okay. And then, Eric, to answer your question, I think one of the things that we need to do as we work through the vision, right, is, you know, what is that vision, right? And how does the administration work us against that? And so we could come back and probably question, is this taking us to where our vision needs? It may be exactly what we need, or we may need to tweak it a little bit.
Thank you. I did not want to give the indication. I was looking at this independent of current state, like compared to what we have today. I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't trying to make any inferences to that. I do think that that's what do we want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what legacy do we want to be behind? And I know that money isn't the primary driver of that, but it is an important part of that. So when we look at aspirationally, if we're going to establish a benchmark right now for how we're going to build this, then let's make sure we do it in a way that attracts talent. Even though it's only one part, it's an important part. That's all. And that's why I was asking the question about the experience and everything as well.
I get worried though that we have to make sure that everything, we're balancing the budget. So we can't just
Yeah.
give more without knowing where it's coming from.
That is a consistent hindrance without successful lobbying in terms of the ability to levy and such, because a lot of the schools that can pay more, can levy more, or they can get huge grants. And so far, our grant, the big money grants are not really in where our population can qualify.
Our grants, maybe I should ask this question now, I have lots of questions. I'll just be quiet.
Are you talking about like Title I money?
No, I'm talking about some of the other larger specialized grants. I mean, some Title I money, yes, but ours would still be relatively small. But there's other like large grants that schools get that are written. But chunk of the time we were kind of population out of it in previous years.
So this is a newbie question, I will say that. So again, it just leads me down the path of, yes, money is required to, if we wanted to do something different. Budget is a constraint, but is there a way to, you said the word lobby, I think that's a good word, lobby with those constraints in a way. Grants is one way, is there other ways, are there things that we can do? Like, budget is only a constraint if we can't get money from elsewhere, you know what I'm saying? So are there other methods that we could say, if this is aspirational we want to do, our strategic plan is this, our vision is this, it's going to take this, okay, how do we get to that? What is the roadmap to being successful in finding that? Am
I
making
mean,
sense?
one way is the way that you already have laid out, which is to grow in size. You know, to bring in, you know, a lot more general ed revenue, allows you to think, have more money to think differently about your budget potentially. Pay teachers more, pay administrators more. Some of the overhead costs of running a school stay the same, whether you have 300 or 3,000, they stay the same, so that
creates
is one way.
leverage, then too. Creates leverage and opportunities. And I know that this is short term, like we're not thinking about this as not a 10-year plan, this is, we have something in front of us that we have to resolve. I'll be quiet.
You're fine.
But thank you very much, Lisa, I appreciate, because even if you look at their range, their range is significant from the numbers from Max. So I very much appreciate all of the legwork going into specific schools, especially focusing on charters, because it's just a very different world. And so that range is huge. You know, we're gonna have some confounding variables and some skewed distributions happening.
I would just echo that. I mean, we were a little rushed when we went through before, and I know we were just talking, what numbers did we have last time, and what should we go off of, and what's reasonable. So I think this is a much more thorough background for us to kind of place it well educated. So thank you for that, and for the rest of the committee for that together.
Especially all the charter schools. I mean, that's the thing, you know, I've worked at a public schools, 5 schools total, and it's like, I didn't come here for the money. And I think an executive director, that's one of the things, you come here for the charter. And I took Hastings was 0.67, and I made the same money as school time, so, but it's math and science. So, I mean, that's one of the things you want somebody to understand what a charter is and whatnot.
Other questions on the other documents? I know it's easy to focus on the money. But,
Yeah, so there are a couple of questions here. Before we finish up on the salary schedule, where are we on the schedule? Specifically for our school now.
Sorry, Jeff, are you asking what I've given you?
Yeah.
So I am at this 120 mark. Now, I don't know which one, if there's more than 120 on here, you know, which square I take, you know, that it's what Lisa said, it kind of depends on how you think about additional leadership experiences and numbers of years of administrative experience, you know, but I'm at 120.
Well, and the reason I asked too, which is, you know, if we like what you do, then we'll say, hey, you're in this experience box, and that's great, because now I want to look for someone that's, you know, for a permanent, now we know what a 16 to 20 year experience reflects.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, if we're in a different
Or
box.
6 to 10 with
I have to say, it's really complicated, Jeff, in terms of the position
Yeah.
offers pros and cons,
Right.
and there are trade-offs, and so, people will think differently about those trade-offs. Some people are really focused on money, and some people are more focused on the.
Right. But I just need to, I have no benchmarking. I mean,
Yeah.
Zero, so that is helpful. So the other piece is years of administrative experience, and maybe this is a question for Lisa. So we're talking full-time, because it'll be interesting, because like you said, positions in different schools treat some of these things differently. So if we have someone coming in and they'll say, hey, halftime I was doing this, and halftime I was doing that. In our minds, we're looking for a full-time designated experience that would fit under some of these categories that you're listing. Is that how you were thinking of it?
I guess to me, I was thinking of what their full-time position was, but if they had like a part-time additional one or different one, like, okay, so my husband teaches part-time and does admin part-time. So if he was an admin for like 3 years, but then he's been part-time admin for 7 years,
Right.
that part-time admin to me would be like one position, right? Because he had the full-time job plus one other thing, in my mind. I mean, you guys could look at it a little differently if you wanted. I mean, I don't think you want to go through and piece together half and half, and I think that's getting into some mucky waters there. But to me, it's like if he was a full-time, he should get the 3 years for full-time and then plus whatever he did for half. When I made this, that's how I would look at it.
And I know it's not exact science. It's,
Right.
We've got 5-year blocks, so that halftime probably will bump someone, not likely bump someone into a box.
Right, and nobody's ever gonna get to probably the last 3 boxes if you've been an administrator. I mean, you're gonna be looking at a 90-year-old executive director or whatever. That's gonna be pretty excessive and maybe not what you're looking for. Also, you'd have to think about if someone had been a superintendent for 5 years, is that person, how would you count that additional leadership experience as opposed to, that's just one thing, right? But typically you don't become a superintendent if you haven't been a principal or an assistant principal and a bunch of things along the way. But then you've got to also think about how many times you want somebody to job hop, and is that something you're looking for too? So, I mean, I think it's going to be real subjective how you place somebody on that part.
It might be worth considering that when you get to the point of hiring, that you do have 3 administrators here with experience about these things that you could consult. I think you could be somewhat helpful. Like part of the administrative experience is for the executive director, a principal or assistant principal is different than a district level position. District level positions give you more of that superintendent type experience, which is you need an executive director to have. So it's maybe more years, but not the same kind of experience. But I think the other thing that's a really good thing about this is it's a place for the board and stakeholders to have some transparency and some conversation potentially.
Okay. I know where you have to find someone with the right fit, and there are a lot of factors, but the more we kind of think about it ahead of time, I just want to at least know that we're asking the questions. The other bullet point here on the teacher salaries being renegotiated every 2 years. The one scenario, and I don't know if it'll even occur, but if we at some point in time review teacher salaries and we need to do a reset. So I wouldn't even consider that a raise. You may handle it as a raise if they're small amounts, but if it's a slightly larger amount, I'm not sure I would call it specifically a raise, it might be more of a reset. Then in that situation, I'm not sure that that proportional amount would necessarily go to the administrators, because we just went through a reset with the administrators.
Actually, Jeff, what we meant was no more than the proportion up to. Because we were also saying, you kind of did the reset with the administrators with us, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to do a reset on a teacher's salary scale without really doing a percentage is to go through and, they have steps. We knock out a full step so that
Okay.
you just proceed through. Because again, 40 years is a long time to
Yeah.
proceed through it. Teacher scale, typically they're about 20, and then you get a longevity stipend after that, would be a typical structure for salary schedule. So if you were gonna do that, a lot of districts will just knock out the first step. So you might start your first year on 5. That's just the step 1.
Well, and part of it is we're transitioning from a slightly different way of doing things, and I just want to make sure it comes out even for everyone, and that this doesn't unduly limit that conversation. So it sounds like we're on the same page. Thank you.
Would it help if the phrasing was that teachers/BA salaries are negotiated for cost of living adjustment every 2 years? Because if you're thinking of a reset versus a COLA, COLA would be 1 to 2%.
Right.
If it's a reset because we're significantly below even an average, then that's not a cost of living adjustment.
But this isn't going in a contract. You're
I know, I'm
going
just
to
saying
the-
for clarification, like if that would help verbally.
Yeah, this isn't a published document, I don't think.
No, I just meant if that would help.
And my only problem with that is that we've never had a COLA increase, so I'm doubtful that we'll have enough money to have a COLA increase next time too.
This is
Never
also true.
happened.
This is also
So-
true.
So I guess I was just trying to make sure that people understood that it doesn't really take 5 years for someone to get a $1,000 raise. I'm just trying to say, you know, I mean, however we want to phrase it, it doesn't matter to me. I just wanted people to understand that that's not how it works, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot of thinking, Lisa.
Definitely.
And, you know, you just see it on paper and how much, I mean, I personally, I knew it didn't say max on here, but that's what I did was download and she sent it to us. That was her, it said max, so that was on her, like, attachment, so.
Sorry, yeah, I guess I didn't realize it.
No, you did, but I knew that. So that's fantastic.
Do you want me to move on to
Yes,
the next
we
one?
have that.
So the next one is page 119, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's the executive director. And so I gave you a different one that has the red lines on it, so you can see what the changes were. So it doesn't say page 119 on it. And so the changes on this,
This.
page 119, and then it says executive director on the top, it says qualifications, are things written in red on it.
Oh, here we go.
Those were just the things that we added after the survey results, because the survey results showed a couple things. What the teachers and staff valued the most from the survey results was the sense of community. What the parents and students valued the most from MSA was academic excellence. And the thing that was most highly commented on that they wanted to maintain was like having small class sizes or a small class size feel. So on there, we just kind of talked about, we feel like the new person needs to figure out how do we balance expansion. I assume that we're gonna expand. If we're not gonna expand, I can take that out of there. But I assume we have to grow at some point. How do we balance that growth with still having that small school feel? And so to me, that's what really came out of the surveys. How are we gonna do that? You know, so we have to have someone who maybe has had expansion experience before, or someone that knows what a small school feel is. I'm not sure that we all agree on what a small school feel is. We can all say aspects of it, but, you know, our community, those types of things. So that's just the things that I changed on the executive director ad. So that's the ad that would go out towards people. And then I just added the stuff that the MSA teachers were listed first in the state and 19th in the nation this year, so.
Lisa, was it from the parent survey or the staff and parent survey?
From this survey that the transitional task force put out.
Did
So not
everybody
the-
do that, parents and staff, did everybody do that?
So there was a parent and student one and a staff one.
Okay, so you took all of that? Okay.
Yeah, and those results are in the back of this packet. So you can see them, except I didn't print up all the comments in my email. I asked and nobody asked for the comments, so I didn't send them out to you. I can if you want them.
Yeah.
But all the other stuff is in there, in the very back of the packet. On page 140 and so on, as far as the results of the survey. Then on page, if you don't have any other questions, we can go to the job description, that's page 120 in your packet.
I'm sorry, I have one question.
Oh, yeah,
Where will this be posted? Like, will this go to job boards or
Yeah.
is this a,
yeah. There's all places all over that I posted.
okay. Curious about the word facilitate the growth of our school in the first one. Facilitate to me feels kind of like a broker connecting dots versus leading and influencing. Do we think that word should be a little bit stronger than facilitate?
Sure.
Like, I know it's a board-led activity for expansion, the building and whatnot, but this is really an executive director role to lead and champion the growth of our school. Thought?
I'm fine with any of those words. Which one do you want?
Both? I like both. I like both.
I did too.
Lead and
Lead and
champion.
Lead
champion.
and champion.
Yeah, lead and champion.
You want both of them in there?
Well, champion brings about an element of like, you're advocating for the school in other places. It's not just a growth of the school, it's a awareness and all the other things that happen around MSA.
Yeah, I like lead and champion.
Champion, what was the other one?
Lead and
Lead
champion,
and champion.
Lead?
yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you said lead.
Then on the back on page 120, then that was the job description. And I'm not exactly sure what happened with the job description because all of my red lines were taken out of it at some point. So, and that's fine, I'm sure someone's just trying to be kind, but I'm sure you guys are all like, well, we already approved the job description, what are you even talking about? So I gave you a copy of what the red lines were. So if you needed to like look at the differences between what you had already approved and what the new one was. So the changes to from the old one that you approved back in, I think, August. We have a person who's a director or CEO of a bank. And so he had his human resource officer look at the old one. And it's not legal advice, but it is her expertise that she made some suggestions on our job description. So all of those changes are just her legal, or her expertise, not her legal recommendations. So, and then I met with her and we kind of talked about them and stuff like that. So just, the red lines are on the new copy. I was just worried that you'd be like, what's the difference between the old one and the new one, so.
So the 120s, after you removed all these or added them?
Yeah, on page 120,
Right.
they're already in there.
Right, I got it.
So, yep, I just was worried that some
So,
people
okay,
would be
yeah,
like.
that's, so with this
Yeah.
one I looked over, all right.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
So we didn't change any content of that, we
No,
just, I
just
just
added it out.
I had a question on the contract, page 125.
Yep,
Just, I see this one, the red lines are there.
yep.
Strike out 7,000 and put in 4,000. And I think, was the 4,000 like the original number that we had before previous director? How do we come to change that?
With the previous director, we were requiring them to get certain education. So we required them, so we had to, give them money for that. And then for us, we didn't really think that with this person, they will have their administrative licensure. So we shouldn't have to require them to get education. But of course, we should encourage them to have more education and, to keep up to date on things. And so we just looked at it and said, if we give them $1,000 a quarter, that's kind of the way that we came up with 4,000.
Yeah, so, okay, so I was just curious, how did that line up with what we had previously, before we had the previous director with the special situation?
I took this from the salary from the contract. I think the $7,000 is what was there before with the previous director.
Yeah, okay, and then, I'm assuming, if I recall, we had that in there for what you mentioned, which was to get some additional,
Yep.
training. So my question is, before we changed it to 7, was it 4, or was it 2? I don't have a basis for it.
Oh, it had just gone
Yeah.
up, like every year we give him $1,000 or whatever. Like he had just negotiated that with us.
I don't know that it was any different than 1,000 or
Yeah.
than
Previous
full-time
directors, it wasn't
Students.
different
Or,
than the
Okay,
staff.
teachers.
yeah, it was the same as the staff.
Yeah, so previously there wasn't a significant difference.
So is it common I mean, I don't know what's normal, but is it common to have a higher one for the administration than the staff?
Most schools don't offer it, as far as I know.
They don't
To
put
their
it in the
staff.
contract necessarily, but sometimes they do.
So there's a couple of different things, like teachers don't usually, teachers can request professional development, plus in a big school district, a lot of professional development is provided, but you can request it as well. So like all of the things for your licensure is already provided by the district, because they just do it for you.
Okay.
I mean, you don't do it for you, but they provide it. And then there's professional money. For administrators, administrators can't do teacher professional growth. So usually it's
Of course.
around 2,000 or so.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can do more, but you can carry it over as well, certain amount. So this is more, but then there's no carryover on the others.
So what is the teacher number?
Could this be the same 1,000?
It sure could be. We just looked at the last one and said, all right, well, we want to not make it a lot less. That was only our only thinking about it, so.
I don't recall if that amount, does that include the licensing classes also, or is that separate?
No, that was supposed to include all of that.
It was supposed to.
That was to
Yes.
cover those.
Right,
classes.
and then I think the problem was sometimes things didn't get done, so then we had to extend it another year and then extend it another year.
So the number
And
went-
so
yeah, okay.
the money, we had to keep giving more money every year because it didn't get done.
Okay.
And, I feel like we had more than the $1,000 for the assistant directors, the previous assistant directors too. Are we gonna continue that, or is that a conversation for another day?
That's not in my,
Okay.
that's not really my purview.
Not in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
Does 4,000 seem like a lot? Or does that include
Well, I know, like,
conferences
I
and
can,
stuff?
yeah,
It does.
Yeah, I
Going
can
to
spend, just as a teacher, going to an AP conference, $1,000 gone.
Oh, okay.
Just for me, I'm sure if
Yeah,
you,
APs are 750 each,
Oh,
so you
yeah.
only really do one a year.
you really can. And if you want to stay like in the dorm, which is hilarious.
If you
60-something
travel,
year
then
old,
it's
but,
really-
yeah.
I think this is a good opportunity to incentivize teachers to do continuous learning. So,
To do what?
continuous learning.
I love it. We
Don't
do
create
it.
a barrier because the
No.
money is the problem.
Oh,
I know
no,
that
and we
we're
do it,
a charter school.
And it's benefited all of us, I think, you know.
Well, I
know how to
definitely, I
teach
use my
our
1,000.
Yeah.
I use it
So,
every year.
yeah, I feel that's a generous ask, I would think, right? I think that's, if we can do it, I don't know.
In the past too, we've been able to request additional. So, like, I have 1,000, but maybe I'll only use 820 because of what I've chosen to do this year. So that extra money is still in that pot. And so in the past, teachers have been able to request, and it goes to the finance committee, I believe?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I don't remember ever doing that before, but that might have not come up last year.
It did not come up last year, I don't
Okay.
believe. But I could be wrong about that. I don't remember. I know in the past,
It came up because there wasn't enough.
and that too.
Remember last year,
Yes.
everybody used theirs and we hadn't actually budgeted for everyone to use theirs, so we didn't have.
Which
enough.
was an issue too, so that,
Okay, yeah.
that turned into an ugly
Whoops.
Bad problem having
meeting.
learning.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
That, you're right, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
We were trying to like block it out.
Yeah, probably.
And then, I guess the other thing I'd like to say about the contract is that we all felt really strongly that the person, if we're giving them 20 PTO days, which is a lot, they need to be here full-time when they're supposed to be here. Because and maybe that would be different in like 5 or 6 years, but in the past, there's been things that were not done in the summer. And so I think that people should have to be here full-time if they're not taking their PTO days. And so at least the committee felt that way, and I think, so that's crossed off from there too.
By that, do you mean like stay for the entire day or come every, like, from 9 to 4? Or are you talking about coming every day unless they're on vacation?
Including
Yeah.
summertime?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if we get to the point where all the work is getting done in the summer, then I think you look at that and you say, hey, maybe we don't have to change this. But right now, we don't know, is there too much work for the administration because it's not getting done? Or is it that people aren't working all their days, so the work's not getting done? We don't know right now, and it's nothing about you, we don't mean you, we just mean in the summertime, traditionally, work has not gotten done. And we don't know why, we don't know where that is. So if we can say that people should be here full-time unless they're taking PTO days, then we can start to figure that out. If we get to the end of the summer and everything's done, like I come back and nobody asks me to do something that's not my job, then let's reevaluate this and say, hey, yeah, everything's flowing smoothly, everything's going well, then maybe that's another benefit that we would give to someone.
A couple of questions on this. On the contract, it says June 30th, 2023. So are you saying that that is not valid? There would still be contract through July and August? You're saying working through the summer?
Well,
Right.
in
No,
June, we'll
no.
renew it.
Yeah,
It would be
yeah,
renewed.
it's renewed at the end of
Okay.
June.
Oh, so it starts
Usually July.
July
1st.
1st.
Right.
Okay, the July 1st wasn't in here, so I didn't have that context, sorry.
Right.
Well, there was a line for whatever.
It just-
was
it might be-
empty,
But that,
so
because
it
the
would
principal
by
started.
default be July 1st if, or whenever they start. Okay.
Right. We don't know.
Second comment, just thought I was having is, I know it's hard, but as much as we can not use our experiences from the past as a way to dictate the future, like what is the right thing to do, not based upon history of what happened in past administrations, but based upon what we want for this position and what we desire for leadership going forward. I know it's hard, but like, it used to be this way, or this happened in the past. Okay, that's good, but we're not in the past anymore, we're looking to the future.
I think,
So if there's a way-
personally, just 8 years here, almost 9, I think it's my 9th year. This never was, we never had administrators not there in the summer. This just happened over
Yeah.
the last 3-4 years.
Yeah,
And I think this is more of going back to what we originally
Okay.
had,
yeah,
not resentments and anger
Okay.
The other
and
thing
throwing
is-
out dust.
yeah,
It's something didn't work and we never did it that way. Maybe we should go back to what worked.
yeah, that's great. I
Good,
like that.
excellent.
I do think it was
Teachers
4
get
days
12.
a week though, in the summer. I
Was
don't
it?
think it was 5.
5 days.
I think it was 4.
I also think that teachers get 12 days, so 20 days for a full year seems reasonable, given teachers have 12 days for full time.
So 0.33 of the 12 days would be what, like 16 point something days if you did it
It would
proportionally?
be 15.98.
So
But then our administrators using their PTO over winter break and spring break, and then our teachers using PTO over winter break and spring break.
That one I don't know, I'm not sure. I was
Right,
like, part of
that's the
my
thing
theory.
that's missing from our contract template is the number of work days.
Yeah,
And I think that that's a really important thing for us to have on our teacher and our administrator contracts is the number of work days. Because that's usually how administrators compare contracts is by number of work days. So,
We don't use
and that translates to, does that mean those holidays are counted as work days unless you take them as PTO, or are they counted as non-work days?
That makes
But
sense.
that's kind of a wild card in the money too.
Right.
Because if you can cash them out, I mean, that could be a lot of money. I have a lot of PTO days. I don't know how I'm gonna take them all, but that could be a real wild card at the end in terms of how much, you don't know how much that's gonna be, and that's gonna be on the last day of the budget cycle that you can count up. And, plan that out. I worked under my previous contract, I had to work 219 days a year. I had a calendar at the beginning of the year, sat down with the administrator, planned out those days. Now, the work still had to get done, so if I didn't use my time well, and it's summer now, and the work is not done, the work still needs to get done, I'm not excused from the work, but these are the days I'm working, and so then I pay for the days I'm working.
Any
So,
last? go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry,
Last
to your question about over the holidays and you said spring break, repeat that again, because I'm not
So-
sure what you asked,
So
what Michelle
I'm
asked.
assuming that administration has to take PTO over winter break and spring break, those 2 weeks.
Okay.
Or 3 weeks in the year, right?
Right,
Teachers, I'm assuming, are just not working those days, but their pay is still their pay. So that's 15 work days
right,
that would get built in.
right, okay, I see the
That- that
differentiation because
administrators
you're,
have to take.
right. Okay. And another way to look at it is, you know, previously, we were more focused on what are considered holidays also.
That's
Those would,
written
of
in the
course, be
contract.
totally exempt and treated differently.
I think that these are all really good things for us to discuss and think about, but I'm just wondering if it makes sense right now, since we've done it this way for a little while, to keep doing it this way, and with the new person, when they come in, we can start to renegotiate some of these things, because they would have more time and expertise to kind of figure it out. And additionally, along with that, like, you guys are working on changing the contract language anyways, so some of that stuff might get fixed anyways within the contract language. Or if you want, we can put off the contract, we don't have to vote on the contract this month, we can put it off, I guess, in the interest of time, we could put off the contract till next month if you need more time or something like that.
I don't know if this makes a difference or not, if you want to vote on it tonight or not, but we are inconsistent about the title of this role. Sometimes we say executive director, sometimes we say director. I understand in the charter school world, if you say director, most people think there's someone above that person. So my suggestion would be we're consistent saying executive director.
I support that.
True. Good, for the sake of time, we have 2 more topics on the workshop, so I guess if we have other questions, we can take on the board as well. They're 2 quick topics though, so that's good. So one is just on board training. So we have a couple of new board members, and the state of Minnesota requires, and I think it's a good idea, that we know what we're doing, right? So we have to take some training to do these classes. I went through mine a couple of years ago, and I thought they were extremely informative. I think, Michelle, you and I were in one together. And they do a great job. So I won't single anyone out, but you guys are all responsible for getting your training done. And
I'll get it done.
That's all I really want.
Yeah.
You can
So, do they
self-volunteer.
ever expire? I mean, like, when you give it, because, I mean, I did it probably a year before you did it.
Yeah.
I mean,
You could take a refresher. I mean, you could take a new one. I don't think most of that stuff changes much, but I would prefer to.
I thought it was very useful, and the other thing is nice is you can use the expertise as topical if we're going through whatever it is we're going through. I remember asking questions, and they were able to give examples from other charter schools about this, that, and the other, and it was extremely helpful, right? And you get to learn from the peers as well that are going through the same thing as you guys.
And
So
it's
please-
three trainings, correct?
There-
It's
yeah, there
100,
was
200,
3.
300?
There was an option to do like a double one, but I did a 3 one. Am
I
right?
did 3 separate, and I found it to be more educational.
Okay.
The first time I was on the board, I did the marathon one,
Okay,
and it was more surface level.
overwhelming, yeah.
I think I did the surface level one, and I did the special one.
So where do they find this? And how do
So
they
in the
sign up?
past, we worked with the director.
Yes, I can catch up. This is one thing I should have been on top of more too. I think I emailed Eric some of the things from the Max website, and I can reach out to Sandy too now. There are some things coming up in November that probably would be timely to sign up for. I think you're gonna catch
That's
some
all,
of
that's all
those.
very good.
They do them in the fall, so we're playing catch up a little bit, but they're out there.
are they online or are they?
Everything is Zoom right now or something virtual, yeah. I don't think anything was in person.
That helps.
Yeah,
For
it makes it
like
more
our-
convenient for you.
Questions?
So you're following up with.
Yep, I'll help Sandy know of the, you know.
She's already let me know.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
But we need to make sure, because Jeff is starting a new, or he had a break from here, so make
Yeah,
sure he's still.
I'll take it. It's-
I will let
Wanted to
you
buy
know.
myself a little more time, actually, if anything.
It wasn't that expensive. if I
No,
recall.
no, and we can
$200
pay.
Yeah, the school
You
will
can
pay for the
you
training,
can
but
ask
Oh,
us.
it's $200.
it wasn't that
Oh, I thought they were
100.
less than that.
Yeah, I don't think they're that expensive.
Okay.
So if you want to take it again, I mean, the school is going to benefit from your getting refreshed on it. It's not thousands of dollars, it's reasonable.
Yeah, the school does pay really fast.
Yeah.
School pays.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Cecilia?
Okay, so I will just tell you quickly that, and I don't have a handout for this, Sean didn't get it in the workshop packet. In the process of applying for the Title I grant, I found that school districts that get Title I funding are required to have a policy called 612.1, Development of Parental and Family Engagement Policies for Title I programs. So I think I would just recommend that the policy committee take a look at that. You do need parent and student input to make the policy, which makes sense. So I don't know how far out we are. You know, the NDE is not going to take us to Title I jail or anything if we don't have it in place like tomorrow. We can make reasonable progress towards getting this policy in place over
But it
the
probably
next couple
wouldn't-
months.
You probably wouldn't be able to do that. October, we're doing safety, November, we'll be doing Title IX. So November, probably be in December, that policy.
So we
will
could,
work.
I think that's probably fine. If there's.
I mean, it's not super far out, just like.
Yeah, I can send everyone what should have been a handout for you, and you can see what they look like. But we should probably make plans for how we're gonna get the input sooner than later, I think, so we can do it as quickly as we can.
So is that just, we're doing it so it's ready when we get Title I? We're not
We
getting Title I now.
are getting Title I, well, the MDE grant application website is having a technical problem for a few schools, including ours. So our Title I grant application is in. It's not approved, it's tentatively approved, so we should be getting it soon. But anyway, it's not a ton of money, it's $4,400, but it's something and it's a start.
And in
So,
order to get that money, you need to have the policy.
if we were monitored by the federal government, they would say,
Okay.
where's your development of parental and family engagement policy?
Okay.
You know, we had to say in our application, no, we don't have one, because we asked. So we will have to be able to say, yes, we have one pretty soon.
Okay.
It's not a huge, I don't think it's a huge thing, as long as we get it done by the next few months.
Anyone? Yeah, thank you. Anyone, anything else?
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yep.
I didn't see any like super strong objections to the current language of the director contract stuff. Are we voting on it or no? Just so that I know. The executive director, the one that Lisa gave us. Are we voting on that language or no? Or are we tabling it
guess
for now?
So I wonder if there's a way to figure out, like you said, 4 out of 5 summer days. I mean, and are they not getting paid for spring break? Are they not? We actually don't get paid, but we don't, you know, we don't have to use PTO for it either. But I feel like that is something we should look at what's been done. I think, I don't know how to do that, but.
I feel like we need to do that though for all of the employees, because the administrative staff suffer from that same issue. So, not just the administrators.
No, I get it. I
So,
totally
we
get it.
should figure it out for everybody. And I think that's part of what's supposed to be done this year.
We should probably do it for the associate director role, so that we can then flow that down for everybody
But
else.
would that change the spring? The 20 days?
Right.
Yes.
It might. I don't know. I think that's a good question. And then two, to Lisa's point, do you start with the teachers and then figure out above, I don't know, or do you start like with the executive director? And, you know what I mean? I don't know where you start.
Separate-ish conversations.
Well, do you need each to compare
Well,
or not?
I don't know. From a teacher perspective, I don't know, but from an administrative perspective, it was a leap of faith to sign a contract
Yeah.
without the number of workdays, a big leap of faith.
I get that.
And it was a strange conversation to have with Kate and Leela about hiring them when I couldn't tell them the number of workdays. So it's standard in administrative contracts.
And I've never seen it. I wouldn't, you know, I think, as it's being explained, it makes sense to me that would,
So timing wise,
Work
Lisa,
out.
to answer your question, I guess, did I hear we don't need to approve it just now?
If
Because
you
I'm-
get a, yeah.
I'm wondering if the committee could come back with maybe taking a look at that with another recommendation and just say, can you help us with that? Because it touches on a lot of different, you know, issues that we've had. Issues is a strong word, but you know what I mean? Equity
Right.
between the staff and the teachers and administration and everything.
I
So
agree.
So it's not something that I think that we could just flip it, you know, put down on a piece of paper easy. So maybe it makes more sense if we come back with some more thought on that. I don't know, I just don't know that we can solve it here tonight without a little bit more thinking.
There's a lot of caveats in the motion if that happens tonight.
Yeah.
So who would do it?
But I'm asking if do you have another meeting?
Yes, you have another meeting, so.
Is it within your, would you be willing to take that one?
Yes, I'm thinking that I need to see other contracts
Maybe we can
from
help.
here and other contracts from other schools, so I can.
Because I think what you guys have done, you know, with the, I mean, it's data, right? You've got charts with numbers, it's hard to argue, so that's what the current situation is.
Yep, right.
And I feel like I don't have that on this other one, which is the number of work days that other school people do. So maybe if we had a few more examples of that, we could talk more
Yep.
rationally about it.
Yep.
Or would they also address the teachers and other staff? And frankly, the other administrators in that conversation, or only?
So it's kind of different, Chuck, though, because teachers teach on school days, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a certain number of professional days that they're expected to come, and, you know, there's a calendar, we have to lay that calendar out so the students know when they're supposed to come, and we make sure we have teachers when they're coming. But for administrators, the number of days is so many more.
Right.
So it gets kind of weird in terms, so that you have to figure out, and then administrators usually have to take paid time off. Teachers usually just get the time off when there's no students in professional development, they just are off.
Well, I mean, I know it's different, but that's the question. Does the same group look at everything as a whole, or do we only look at one? Because we're talking about equity, and you're gonna have to look at all of them. Maybe not be the one to decide it, but at least have it as part of the conversation, all three groups.
Well, and that's throwing a little bit of a wrench into it. I'd like to take time off other days, it's just too hard to do it. And then secondly, I would come in for a week during spring break if I got paid to write curriculum, which I do write, that I have written for free multiple years. So, I know, so, that might be, just throwing it out there as something that there, you know,
All the
yin and
pieces of
yang,
puzzle.
yeah, that there's a lot of puzzle pieces at play, because we don't have like set curriculum that we buy.
On the flip side though, I think we were addressing it, which was, I don't think we specify you come into work if our administration's extremely efficient, right? I mean, this is, they have a certain amount of job that needs to get done, and you were saying sometimes it wasn't getting done, so we're trying to go back and say, please get it done. But in fact, I think we just need to make sure that everyone's doing the job description that we've outlined and whatnot. But I think, like I said, it's probably more than the 5 minutes we have here
Yeah,
to solve.
and if it's the advice of our admin team that it's unusual not to have that number of days on there.
Then we should have it.
I haven't seen admin contracts, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
So hopefully,
if that's
yeah.
something that's usually on there, that
Yeah,
if a candidate hesitates because we don't have it, I
yeah,
feel
I agree.
So-
But I also need like the other administrative staff contracts, so I can make sure that they make sense together, like, are the days off that are their holidays the same? Are the days they have to, like, during spring break and winter, do they have to take PO, do you have to take PTO? You know, all of that, like, it needs to be holistic, not just the piece, not just the administration piece. Like, I know the teacher one, but.
So,
maybe pause on that vote tonight though.
yeah, I guess we can discuss it. We have it up for a vote. We could either vote for it with that outstanding, or we could vote for it again the next month when we come back. We'll talk about it in a second. But either way, it sounds like we have a little bit of homework. With that, I'm gonna call the workshop session at 5:59. So you guys got a 15-minute break, and we'll start at 6:15. Thank you. Get something to mute.
So obviously, because we're worried about all the restructuring.
Making sure, I'm gonna try it and then
How do we click mute? You gotta show me, then I can do it
I
the
don't
next
know,
time.
actually.
Where's the mute button?
I think it's right. You just like hit that, is it?
All right, we good? So we're live, seeing things move. So welcome everyone to the October 2021 MSA School Board meeting. We did change the venue. If you don't recognize it, we're at the YMCA. So if you're at MSA, you can kind of, come on over if you wanted to join us for open forum. But we'll have a plus or minus and see what we like and didn't like about this one. Masks are optional here at the Y. They do ask that you wear them if you can. I would ask that you take it off if you're comfortable while you speak, just for the clarity of the microphone, but otherwise it's up to you to wear or not, as you see fit. So I would like to call the meeting to order. Sydney, would you be okay to read the mission and vision for us, please? Should be on the top.
First page.
Okay, there.
Section 2.
Mission is we provide accelerated curriculum in all subjects with an emphasis on math and science. The vision is the innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence that creates well-rounded lifelong learners and global citizens.
Thank you. Roll call is next. We used to do this on Zoom by name, but now I can see everybody's here. Do we still have to do it? Anybody know?
I don't think.
We decided last time we did.
Okay, let's do that. So we're not here, raise your hand. Same the last. So approval of the agenda. You guys had a chance to look through. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, I will make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight. Can I get a second?
This is Maggie, I will second.
Thanks, Maggie. Any other discussion? So then we'll put it to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, agenda is passed. Great. So open forum, I do apologize if somebody comes in later, we'll take it if you guys are flexible with that. A nice update came through from you, Cecilia, as well as from, I guess, the Minnesota Board or something. But basically the point was, open forum is not required, but it is kind of a...
Across the border and...
Maybe wait and see if Justin can see it too. No?
Yeah. Winnipeg.
Yeah, which allow you to do that houses.
Bristol City is the town, it's basically north of
Well, we posted the location. I think this is a nice to have. I'm glad that we do it, but it's not required.
Yeah, so if it's something where we just can't, we can't, I would love for it to stay, but
It's working.
We're good, yeah. Well, when we're gonna.
Hey, let's take my mask off.
Talk about your house.
All right, we're on it.
Thank you.
Which is the major one.
All right.
Okay, we're good.
Call it back. We have to it. It's moving on my phone, and we're hearing from Justin. So thanks. Sorry about the technical difficulties. As I was mentioning, we have posted the location, so we're good. I mean, people can come and visit it. It's an open meeting, but it is nice to have technology for those folks that are watching it from home. And also, we are doing remote note taking, so it's also nice to have the records for us for our notes. So, where were we?
Interim Executive Director's report. I'll just share two more quick highlights and then that's plenty. We are excited to have rolled out the personnel evaluation system. Kate and Leela are meeting with goal setting. They're meeting with teachers to do goal setting and classroom observations and moving forward with the teacher evaluations. And then also up at the top, kind of worked my way from the bottom to the top. Under educational leader, I just wanted to share that we are dipping into the idea of monitoring students' grades, and then teachers are working on developing improvement or intervention plans with students who are getting D's and F's. We have a lot of kids who are struggling coming back from the pandemic, and so we're working with teachers to create a really strong process for intervening when kids are struggling, and we're learning a lot. On Wednesday, for example, we're going to learn about some things that are culturally responsive ways to intervene because of our widening achievement gap, things like that. So we're really excited about taking some baby steps into ways we can improve our educational environment for all students. That's it.
new facilities person yet?
So Jeff's question is, do we have a new facilities person yet? We do not. We have only one qualified applicant. I'm gonna do a screening interview with him this week. Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you. It's rough hiring climate, really rough hiring.
All right, Chair's report is up next. I don't have anything major specific. We have some action items later in the agenda, which we'll take it there. I just wanted to say that we are doing some training as a board so that the community knows it's required by the state of Minnesota. It's also just a good idea that the folks on the board know kind of how to help run the board. We're all different volunteers from different capacities, so that's the main one, and we're working on, I think most everyone's got the training. We have a couple more folks that are following up, and then we also are offering up refreshers at the school's expense. It's not expensive, but it's also good if you guys are interested in doing that. So otherwise, I'll cover a couple topics later in the agenda. So I'd like to move to the board committees and subcommittees, and we'll start with the subcommittees. And as we've done in the past, please just, we're not going to go through each notes. I'm hoping you had a chance to read part of the 150 pages of notes. But if you have questions, now's the time to ask. So anything for the annual fund?
So we usually meet the fourth Thursday, or third Thursday, and of course it's MSA and it's after board. So I won't have a report now, but we'll be meeting furiously to get ready for Get to the Max, obviously. And we've kind of thrown up some ideas about, getting together, NHS, ball bucket in the morning and night, and getting that rolled up. So it's going to be tricky because I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have Give to the Max during the week of our board meeting next month. Is that right, Ela? Right? Is that right? I think so. Or it's going to be close. So we're going to be busy doing that and either have results. And so it's the timing of having board meetings every month versus actually pulling this off. It's like a 3-week frenzy to pull off. So that's what we'll be having, which is really important. So that's that. So we have a next slide.
Communication, questions?
No, but just a note, they're like if you're looking for the agendas for some of the others, they're after some of the financials, so if you kind of got to page a little bit. Because the financials have, a number of pages, so if you're looking for them, they're just 45, 46%.
And if we talked about it, if we can get some help putting those page numbers, if we need to change the agenda format in order to help accommodate that, we can certainly do that. I try to kind of squish everything down so it doesn't look so overwhelming, which is why I'm trying to squeeze it into a couple of pages, but we can change that. Director search will have a specific topic of that coming up. Elections, we also have a specific topic on that one.
Yeah.
School expansion.
We didn't actually meet last month, waiting for the strategic plan to be a little bit more of that.
Personnel, I did not put in the notes, but last time we talked through it, just so everyone's quick aware. Oh, actually, no, sorry, I'll handle it as a separate agenda item. Policy? Any questions? Then we can switch to the committees, academics. Okay. And the financial one, we do have to discuss and approve.
Financials start on, our committee note, finance meeting notes are on page 15, and we go through page 44 for financials. Were there any questions?
I actually did have a question. It was on the Chromebooks. I know this is a specific thing, but they said we were missing Chromebooks, but I was wondering why can't we get them back, and then also why don't we charge the students that didn't turn in?
We are working into that.
Okay.
But we've had to purchase some in the meantime.
I see.
To give the students need them now.
Yep, okay.
So we are working on that. And then, any other questions? And then we need to approve the financials, so I will motion to approve the financials.
I will second. This is Annie.
Any discussion, question on the financials?
So quick question, you noted a budget deficit for $129,000.
Yes.
So what makes a bulk of that?
Those were the things that we approved, was it last month or the month before?
It's been a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In August?
I believe it was in August.
So were those the items that were going to be covered by accessing the
Fund balance.
fund balance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one and the same.
Right.
Yes, and another note, Dustin, our representative at Bergen, is still, he was in the process of verifying our salaries, because it's one spreadsheet and then it's condensed into one line item on the financials here. And he had a death in the family, so he didn't get that finished for this month, so we should have an update. So we'll probably do maybe not a full approval of the budget, but at least an updated review of it next month.
Great.
Oh, and speaking of that, the auditors want to come to our November meeting, so we'll have a report from our auditor.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay. Take a vote. All those in favor to approve the financials, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. Good. Then we go on to item 11, consent agenda.
You
So
know, Dan, I don't know if they're here for open forums.
I did ask, I think.
Oh, did you, are you not here, or are you here for the open forum? Okay. I just wanted to give them a voice
Thanks
if
for,
they
yeah,
needed.
thanks for So consent agenda number, item 11A and B, the annual report to authorizer and then the advisory committees for the
Right, and just to peek, I'm sure you've read these already, but the annual report to the authorizer starts on page 53, and it goes all the way to like page 111, and then authorizing an advisory committee for the world's best workforce. That information starts on page 112. So the required advisory group for the advisory world's best workforce includes student members and parent members, and then internal staff, and then some staff can help with this external group too. And I'm just really thrilled to have 5 students that want to be on the group and 5 parents that represent a diverse subset of our school. So I'm really actually thrilled.
And I think, is it all 3? I know 2 of you are on the world's best. Is it also you, Lydia? Are you on that world's best workforce? The student, I think you 2 are, right? Yeah. Or at that. That's great. Nice.
So just a comment, I mean, fantastic job on the annual report. I mean, it was
That
actually
was-
fun to read through. I would say, I can't say that for every board packet, but this one was fun to read through. I learned some stuff, and I also, just a comment on page 67, looking at the wait lists, you know, of students, sorry, 68.
Yeah.
You know, it's down a little bit, but it's still kind of carrying on strong. Happy to see that that's quite a strong, I mean, because we had a lot of things happen the last couple of years, so
Yeah.
you can see some changes that happened here with, perhaps maybe with COVID or what have you, but still we have a steady and strong been through there, so that was one of my takeaways. Any other comments, questions on this before we?
I wasn't using 3M tabs, so it fell out. That's what happens when I use a generic.
If you did find typos or any errors, you can let me know. I think it's,
So just do that, yeah. I think it was just a few things. It's nothing big, but it was very well done. Thank you.
If you find me a picture of the front. It looks really neat.
Yeah, I
especially
did
the
that.
contrast.
But yeah, I did
It
see
looks
this.
so nice.
I know.
That's tough.
I I did look at the front, and I'm like, oh, it's not the Eagle Scout one, though. Yeah. That's great.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
No?
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great,
Very good.
good job. Old unfinished business, we have no changes for 506 and 616,
Yep, none of those back, so.
Yep.
so nothing to vote for there. And then we did revise goal number 6.
Shoot, yes, and did anyone find it?
Yeah, I saw
What page is it?
it. 111.
It has highlighting.
Oh, yes. Yes. So you see page 111, remember this is our, back up. This is our goals in our contract with the authorizer for this school year that we're in. It's a multi-year contract. So it's, a lot of this is like behind us already, but it's just sort of catching up. And there was concern last time about the wording of goal 6 around hiring diverse staff. So I wanted to share this one that hopefully will work. I worked with Dan and Maggie on this one. The school will actively recruit and hire staff persons that reflect the school's racial demographics and hire licensed staff to make incremental progress towards matching the demographics of our school's student body. So it's measurable enough as publicly reported to NDE by July 1, 2022. So that's the only change to we had approved some earlier changes around those growth goals that are no longer available from MD.
I like the phrase, that's good.
So question, did you intentionally limit it to racial demographics?
Yes, we did. Now we know that broadly, we want to hire more diverse staff in all the ways that people can be diverse at different thought, process and perspectives. But this is what MDE measures, so that's why we do that.
Also something, that we currently have a measure for.
Right, and pretty good size discrepancy.
So. Other questions on the reword?
I think what's tripping me up a little is, does it make it seem, the wording make it seem like you will always hire them, even if there's a better candidate that doesn't fit those demographics?
So I hope
You'll recruit and hire, but maybe you won't hire.
Well, I mean, I hope it doesn't say that we would do that, because our professional judgment would be, hire the most qualified candidate, but two equally qualified candidates, we would lean toward the diversity, I think, but it is a good question.
So that gives you think the language gives you some flexibility there?
I think it
Like
does,
doesn't say,
because it doesn't say a number anymore, it just says make progress. So I don't think it locks us into hiring against our professional judgment or anything like that.
Good, then are we okay to vote on number 6 reworded for approval, official approval? So did you make a motion already? Was that before? That was the consent
that was the
agenda.
consent
So I'll
agenda.
make a motion that we approve the revised goal 6. Give a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Great, thanks. Let's back up. We are on to the board elections. So Corey?
Okay, so we had the board election, it closed last Monday. We had a total of 77 votes. Sandy got 39, Wendell Slutton got 36, and we had one write-in for Jacob, I'm not good with last names, Bukela, and one abstention. Not sure why someone abstained if there was only one person to vote for, but I think that might have been a test vote.
Oh, okay.
So with that, Sandy has accepted the position. And I don't know if we need to reseat her or if we just need to make it a.
So I wanted to have a group discussion about it. My own, well, I shouldn't be quiet on my opinion, but what are your guys' thoughts?
We just need to vote to seat her permanently instead of an interim spot.
I mean, my opinion is you've already been sworn in for before, so I would just change the date to make it official for the final, if you guys are okay with that. Is that,
I don't think the swearing in changes, but
sorry?
having sworn in, that part of it doesn't change, I agree. But yeah, we just have to make a specific point of
Yep.
clarifying term.
So we could maybe make a motion that we accept the results.
Yeah, I motion to accept the results and seat Sandy as a permanent teacher representative until the end of the term.
I'll second.
3-year term.
And I actually have a question. So that means that the term starts when you started as interim, or it starts now?
It started in June.
It started in June.
The term doesn't change, so
Oh,
people
got it.
can come and
Okay.
go if need be,
Got it.
but the term carries on.
It'll continue until June of 24.
Yeah, June 24th.
Any other questions, discussion? So, welcome, Cindy, we should all vote. All those in favor?
Okay.
He first, who seconded? Oh,
Ready?
yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we can welcome Cindy.
Abstention.
Welcome, Sandy.
Abstaining?
Sandy has to abstain.
Anyone abstaining?
Sandy has to abstain.
That's true. So 8 for one abstention. Okay. Now we're on to 12, sorry, 13D, question.
Can I, before we move on, okay. Because we had so few votes, should we rethink how we do the election? I mean, should we go back to paper? Or what do we do? Because some people were like, really? There was a vote? And
I don't remember the exact numbers, but this was. This was similar to our turnout from the last election.
That was electronic also, right?
It was electronic also.
So I think a fair question is, are we doing everything we can or should be doing, right? I mean, so the election is done, but moving forward, do we want to change or do anything different? I had a chance to vote, I did see the request to vote, but maybe some people didn't see it. Or the other thing is, there is a firewall, right, between when you get the email and then you got to log in, and maybe that's a little bit of a hindrance for folks, I'm not sure. I think that's there for a reason. We don't want people doing 10
I should
votes.
get a couple texts, like, what do? I don't have my password, so. And they probably just said, no, forget it.
So, yeah, and I mean, you're making pain points for people to vote, and it's easy to just delete email.
But we don't want just anyone off the
No, I
street
agree.
voting our election either.
But when I saw the numbers, I also felt, that's not a lot of numbers, considering we have
50
500
staff.
students, 50
50
staff,
staff or something.
and parents too.
Shouldn't there be like almost 1,000 votes yet? Like, if it's a two-parent family, you know what I mean? So 70 votes, 77 votes is.
Well, we can assume a bunch of those were staff, so there are fewer
Right.
parents.
We can look at that for next year, and if, maybe we need to make a tool, for them if they don't have their password, or, we can look at that for next election.
I will say that I did miss it the first time because of all the MSA emails that I get, and they all look the same. Like, they all have MSA, and it's just, you tend to just see them come through, and there wasn't anything that identified it as, actually, this is something that you should probably look at.
Yeah, I mean, just from experiencing this for the first time, I was not sure what my role was. First of all, there's nothing written, and I was underwhelmed by our outreach, and felt like it needed more, communication, it needed more something, clarity about, I don't know. I just feel like it could use a good discussion.
I think in the past there was some by mail, but then there was a cost effect to that.
Yeah. I will say, I personally found it easier the last couple of times doing electronic voting, because then if I am not at school or something and I remember, oh yeah, the deadline for voting is tonight, I can just really quick open my laptop and do it there instead of being like, oh, I gotta drive back up to school to get the ballot. I gotta have the ballot in the office, so I need the keys. You know, just.
Right, I think in general, we need to start moving people away from paper and onto the electronic, and I know that's a tough process for some folks in particular, but I'm sure we saved a lot of money in postage and mailing and time, right? So I think we need to figure out how do we make that more effective, because I think we can all agree 70 some odd votes is not enough. We would like to see more feedback from our community. So we just gotta figure out if it's a website splash or if it's more direct emails or whatever it is. So I think that would be the main takeaway. It's a good question. How do we really get that going next time? So I mean, it's a volunteer position, so I'm not, I mean, we're all here because we want to make the school better, and not everyone, is, then it's the next level of voting for volunteers, it's another level down, but it's still, we're asking for some more feedback from our community, please help participate.
Well, keep in mind, normally our voting is in the spring, right, for the end of term, so this is kind of off cycle. And even with paper, I don't remember it being more than, I don't know, 200 votes? Was it like, even 500, it was much smaller than that? And that was considered good? So we could take a look at
I
those
did
numbers.
with Lisa, when Lisa was board chair, I did the certification with her and our previous director, and I think we had about 200.
I felt like it was more than that, but after doing it once, I would not recommend doing it by paper. I mean, the stamps, I'm sure, I paid my daughter for 24 hours of work, of just doing the stamps and stuff like that, that wasn't all of it either.
I just signed an order for Sean Parker to order 3,000 MSA letterhead envelopes. It's over $500,
Right.
so,
So, great question. I think some room for improvement, but we just can carry that
I
out.
like the awareness comment, just on making sure that we get the word out, what are some things that can be done so people know there is an off cycle or whatever we want to call it, that needs to be done.
And a little education when you sign on for the first time as a parent, that you will need it for, maybe you list the top 3 or 5 things. Because I would be one, I didn't always check grades and whatnot, so when I had the vote, I'd be the one that would look for the password, because I hadn't used it for 3 or 4 months.
And I will say, moving away from paper, but other school boards for the larger districts where it's a other kind of election, they have the little placards like all around neighborhoods and stuff. And I don't want to put them all around the neighborhood, but we can have a couple of reminder placards as people drop off in the morning. Like a couple of those little, almost like the signage that we did for seniors. Just saying, hey.
Person?
Or, voting, voting by this date, or, don't forget to vote, make it generic so we can use it more than 1 year. But just something to remind people as they're dropping off, because then sometimes you're getting it, like, if you didn't see it one way, maybe you would see it the other.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Definitely.
Really good.
Well,
Leave Post-its on their door.
when we run the election for this spring for the next board election, we can probably maybe open this up again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did we vote yet?
Yes, we did.
Okay. I wasn't sure if we.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're good.
Good, anything else? Move on to the permanent director approval. So we have 4 different items for approval tonight, at least for discussion and approval. So we'll take them one by one. The first one is the salary schedule for administration. Questions, comments for exams?
Very well done.
For sure, appreciate the work, all the labor that the committee has been putting in.
One of my buddies is John Gutierrez at St. Paul. I said, dude, what up with not finding your salary? No, I'm kidding, John Gutierrez and nobody. Okay.
I'll motion to approve the salary schedule.
It's the 10/4/21
Yes,
version.
yes.
Is that, am I correct, Lisa?
No, it's
The
the
one
other
that has
one
the red.
that has red on it.
Yeah, it says 10, the 10
Does it
for,
have red on the bottom?
yes.
Okay, yeah, that one.
What is it, 10-4?
It says 10 for
21,
21 on the top.
Yeah.
It's not the one that was in the packet.
Jim, and I think I heard some comments, I just want to make sure the folks that didn't catch the workshop, fantastic job, thank you so much to Lisa and also to the committee for bringing this back. I mean, super insightful for the board to have some numbers to work with, so thank you for that. So,
Jennifer is on the committee too, just so you know.
oh, okay, and also thank you, Jim. Any other comments, questions?
Seconded?
I did.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? First one passes. Next one up, director's job advertisement.
That's the one with the red too.
Yep.
There's executive director on the top. It's not in the packet.
Are we going to motion it with the, instead of facilitate, lead and champion?
I think so, yes.
Oh, yep. That was-
So I can motion that we approve this.
With
Give a
the
second.
lead and champion.
With the, yeah, make sure you add with the.
Oh, yeah.
Lead and
champion.
Instead of facilitate.
Instead of facilitate, we will change it to lead.
Lead and champion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Derek, second.
Who was the first one?
I,
Okay.
Dan first. Eric second.
any other discussion? I just, fantastic summary of, the accolades for our school. I think this is gonna help sell the position, maybe more than anything. I mean, just read through that, and who wouldn't wanna be part of this school, right? So, well done.
That's why.
Yeah. Well done, marketing. All those in favor of the job description as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Great. Job description passes.
That was the ad, not the.
That's the ad, that's the ad.
Oh, sorry, job description, this is the ad.
This is the ad.
The ad.
We just approved that.
We approve the ad. Next up is the job description.
They're both the same, so it doesn't.
Yeah, it's good. I love it.
We didn't have changes for this one, right? We had the question of
The number of
Days.
days is in the contract.
Oh, that's in the contract, okay. Motion to approve, anyone?
I'll motion to approve the director's job description.
Second.
I'll second.
Cody, second. All those in favor?
So you said we will add the days,
That's gonna be
No,
in the
that's not,
contract.
that's not next
but
one.
we want to include it.
That's not even.
That's not even part of it.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Great. Job description passes. And the last one we did have was the director's contract. And on that one, we did have during the workshop a discussion around just a little bit of clarification on the number of work days, how PTOs manage, difference between staff, administration, and just questions on equity and what's fair amongst other school districts as well. And so we did ask, Lisa and your committee can please come back and report back on some, kind of some fair numbers that we can take a look at and make a decision on. So
We also talked about updating executive director.
Yes,
yeah.
taking all the language the same, yeah.
everywhere I should say executive director, that's right. Yep.
Do we need to motion to table it?
Yes.
So
Right. Yeah.
table it until next month? Okay, so we can do that.
Okay, I will motion to table the director's contract to next month's meeting.
I'll second it.
Second.
Executive director.
Yeah, exactly.
And, great. So all those in favor of tabling till next month, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Great. So thanks for all the work that made the job easy. Next up, updated enrollment numbers.
Thanks, Dan. So October 1 is a big date in student data. The October 1 enrollment sets all kinds of things for our school. So it's an important date, and it's a heavy lift to get this enrollment data as clean as possible by October 1st, especially when we faced a summer and a fall like we had with so many students leaving and so many new students coming. But this is pretty solid, and I just want to call your attention to the bottom right corner of the table in the totals. So this is 552 actual students. These are actual bodies that are enrolled in MSA. This includes our kids who are PSEO versus our ADM, or our average daily membership, doesn't include our kids who are in PSEO because they're not bringing their general ed revenue to us, they're bringing it to U of M and wherever else they're going. So, but this is a nice healthy number. We had tons of movement that we kept trying to fill where we could fill. So I'm proud of Joelle and all the staff who got these enrollment records moving and entered. The other thing you should notice is, second to the last column, that's minorities. So for the past 2 or 3 years now, MSA has become a school where white kids are the minority and where our kids of color are the majority. And so we've been really focusing on that data to make sure that we are serving all of our kids well. And so, you know, these numbers are important for us to look at. Anyway, that's it. It's in and it's good, clean data.
So yeah, thanks for all the hard work to get the numbers back as we're shifting around, as you mentioned. I am a little anxious about the numbers keep growing without a solid plan in place for expansion. I know we have an expansion committee, but it's like, we just keep, since I've been having our kids come to school, that number keeps getting bigger every year, but our physical building has not changed.
We are really, really, really strapped for space.
So we are waiting for the mission and vision to, to see if we need to do any changes or whatever, but we also need to really ratchet up our expansion plans to see, because it's going to take some time, a number of years, once we decide what we want to do to actually do that building and get in place. I think we need to be a school, well, we think we need to be a school with more kids having an opportunity to attend, right? So, and those kids also bring more revenue for us, which helps solve some of the other problems we think we have. So there's a lot of good reasons for it, but I think just next year 560, a year after that 570, is just asking more and more out of our staff and students to kind of squeeze into the building. There will be a pain, this is my soapbox, we will have some pain up until we get new buildings, but as long as we can all agree where our vision is and where we're moving towards, I think we can suffer through that time. If we're feeling like, I don't see the end, I don't see that light, then it's going to be a painful process for ourselves. That's my soapbox anyway, so thanks for pushing in a few more kids, but we have to also get our plan, our job as the board is to kind of set how do we solve that problem long term. Good, all right.
So question, so how do the numbers track with what we kind of anticipated last year? And I think BOD was on board last year, but so we approved numbers. Where does that track and where are we playing here? Where are we headed?
What is important in the financials is average daily membership, the ADM number.
Yep.
I think we budgeted like 507, 504, something like that.
507.
507, and I think we're there. But I don't know exactly because it's hard to get ADM. ADM is not in this chart, so.
But even enrollment numbers, do we set enrollment numbers or ADM? We set enrollment.
So I would have to look at that to see what we set before.
Yeah, because I don't remember. And I just want to make sure.
But
we
I think it's.
obviously hit them.
Where we had trouble is when we lost high schoolers, you know, especially juniors and seniors, we can't add them because they won't be on track to graduate. And I think we have a policy against it, or at least we just have a practice of not adding them.
Yeah, and the board approved numbers too are more, they're approved numbers. This year we approved ninth grade with a little bit of wiggle room because that's usually the grade with the greatest amount of change. But those numbers aren't random. So when we're looking at it, for example, when you're looking at adding 3 students, those students have to go in classrooms. The classrooms are maxed. So adding 3 students to a classroom might not feel like a big deal, but the classrooms were maxed 2 years ago. And they still add students to the classroom. So now they are maxed +2, +3. So students are sitting behind at the teacher's desk, or like it becomes particularly, I think back to when I student taught and the class was so big, there weren't enough desks for the students. So you kind of wondered if there was going to be people absent that day, so there was enough desks. Otherwise, they sat at my desk. So, you know, these are things that we have to be very, very wary of changing any of them. Where they're at right now, that's us pushing the walls for a lot of the classrooms.
Well, and to Dan's point and talking about expansion, I mean, even without expansion, we seem to have an issue. You know, and now having a place to go, a goal to head towards will mediate some of the pain, but the physical pain is still there.
Still reality.
It's reality, so, you know, in the spring, we should be talking about, you know, if it in fact happens that a classroom is maxed out to the point where you have students on top of each other.
So,
We need to figure it out. I don't
Dr.
know.
Hinton is working with a task force of the academics committee on looking at ways to maximize a schedule to implement a schedule that maximizes space, because we do have some classes that are too big, classes that are too small. So they're working on that, and that could help us at least know that we're making the best use of our space all day long. And she's really, you know, got a bunch of great people working with her to think through, based on, you know, we have to think about student needs first, you know, and then from there, what else could we gain from thinking about a different schedule?
Well, yeah. So for example, one of the ways that we focused last time when we were really focusing in on student retention and shifting courses and coursework, we decided to start adding some AP classes because one of the reasons students were leaving was because there wasn't opportunities for them to get college credit. And the few times they did, if it wasn't big enough, the class was canceled. And then they couldn't enroll for things, PSEO, because the schedule already closed or because the classes available were really bad. So then they said, okay, well, even if it's kind of a small class, we'll still let it happen because that's how we can, you know, guarantee students have an opportunity for college credit while still staying on campus. So you kind of like thinking about, again, student need and, you know, schedule needs and things like that. It's a lot of moving parts.
Good.
That brings us to the next one, the strategic plan update, which just want to thank the administration for really taking that forward and kind of running with this. So we have, every 3 years, we're asked by our advisors to update our strategic plan and mission and vision, just make sure that we're marching down the right path. So this go around, we decided to hire an external consultant that Ms. Dodge knew ahead of time, which is nice to give us some perspective that they see from other, let's say, charter schools or even the public schools. We're going through that process right now. We've done some surveys already. We're also, the administration is leading focus groups. A number of you guys have had a chance to attend. I think there's a staff one next week. Is that the final one?
This Wednesday. Yep.
This one, oh yeah, this week. We're already into this week, yes. So this week, Wednesday. And so staff gets a chance to voice in. What I will share is, so far on some of the surveys, just real top line, you know, we're seeing fantastic feedback on our staff, which I guess we're not surprised, but it's really nice to see. Hey, great staff, to see that comment over and over again. Small classes is the sort of thing that's we're kind of known for, if you will, so it's one of our watch outs we've talked about many times. If we expand, how do we do that and maintain that small class or the small community kind of feel? We have addressed, or there's some questions, you know, in terms of our salaries that we pay. We've talked both for administration as well as for staff, if there's anything that we can do there. As we're looking at our mission and vision, there's some steps that we can do to try to help make that more aligned with the other opportunities the staff may have. And then the other thing that came out, which I think is also fine and fair, more science classes, more clubs. So if you think about it, we're a Math and Science Academy, and they're saying, where are all these science classes? Where are all these clubs? Whereas, you know, there's a lot of different things that we do. Can we do more? We're priding ourselves in being an innovative, you know, class, or an innovative school, if you will. And so it's just a question. It's a good question that's come back from our constituency to say, what else can we do? And maybe that'll help address some of these concerns that our juniors and seniors have, is they're running out of classes to take or what have you, so they go elsewhere. So lots of great feedback. I think the process, we're probably almost in the middle of it. We hope to have the final focus groups here coming up soon.
Right, so staff on Wednesday, and then we're gonna do student focus groups in the first week of November, and students are going to facilitate groups. And then the World's Best Workforce Advisory, World's Best Workforce is part, you know, of strategic planning. And so the students and the parents on that advisory group will get all of the data and all the information and have a strong voice in the plan. So We should bring a rough draft of a strategic plan to next month's board meeting, and then final in the December board meeting.
So we're tracking well, and I think a lot of people are anxious and excited to see what, if any, changes are made, or if we keep it as is, but stay tuned, I guess, it's coming soon. So I think the process is going well. Questions, comments, concerns?
Just that it still lines up with the search committee calendar, just to confirm that those
I
are
think
all
we're real
still the
close.
same.
We're real
So that we're not
close.
like double working.
Is that a yes, does it? Is that a yes? Says it on
Yes-ish.
I mean, we'll post the job on November 28th, so.
What's that?
We'll post the job on November 28th, so I guess, but then I'll have to come back and get the ad reapproved if we have to change something in the ad. So I'm not sure how that will work.
Again, I haven't seen anything yet that says that we're too far off in any way, so I'm not at all concerned that we're gonna have any major changes. I'd be surprised, I guess, if we do. But it's
I didn't
nice.
think so either, but I just wanted to make sure that we're not,
I
you
think
know.
it's the stay tuned part, I was like,
Yeah, that's
what do you
kinda
mean?
what-
Is that like, is that yes, but really no? I'm not sure. All right.
Yeah, I
Next
think
board
it's
meeting.
gonna be more about how we get there, you know?
Good.
Okay. If you guys are all right, I'll move on to the last one on our discussion decision section of the interim director mid-year evaluation. Just, so we haven't met as the personnel committee, but I did put it as a specific agenda item. So what we talked about last time is the group agreed to meet on October 28th. I'm just going through my old notes, so that's coming up here soon. And basically, the proposal is that we'll have a draft survey that we can discuss as the personnel committee. We'll bring it back to the board here for approval in November to see if we want to change anything based on it being interim versus a permanent director. But the committee can have a discussion. One thought is it's nice to have similar sort of questions so that we can kind of look back and see communication, all the different sort of questions that we had important for executive director in the past. We carry those through, but we'll come back with the recommendation as the personnel committee for the next meeting. So questions on that? Otherwise, it'll be another survey. Apologies for that. I don't know how else to get around it, other than we have to survey our community. So there will be a survey that will go out similar to what we've done in the years past.
The timing would be roughly when?
So right now it says questions sent out first week December with a 7-day follow-up. That was the discussion to try to hit it before Christmas, winter break.
And so then receiving any information or feedback about the questions for that would still line up with when we would start doing filtering of resumes and interviews and things?
Well, that's about the intro.
They're almost
Oh,
very
it's
separate.
not-
Yeah.
Sorry,
This is more feedback for Cecilia, how
Sorry,
our
I
job is
jumped
going
on
this
the
year.
wrong
Yep.
She was stuck on D.
Yeah, I bracketed the wrong one.
That's all right. Any other questions? That was the last main one. So our future agenda items, we do have, as we mentioned, the strategic plan review will be kind of hopefully buttoned up by the end of this year. Give to the max day, November 18th. Danny mentioned about
Yeah,
that. So
and just notice that like the 15th is our meeting, so I should be fast and furious with the information by then. But Give to the Max will launch that week, just the day is the 18th, so we'll be in the beginning midst of it.
Approval of staff contract, we keep kicking this one down. I'm going to say maybe next month we want to start thinking about actually getting ready for that. And what that means is we're going to have to do a little bit of research probably for, I'm going to guess, a month or two, just to see what it is we want to have changed so that by first quarter we can kind of have something to have a discussion and approval. So, yeah, let's talk about it, but go ahead.
May I just suggest, we've already done a lot of research and the staff already voted on the kind of language that they wanted to have. We just need the language, so we just need the Jim Martin magic.
Okay, so we can start that now. I guess my point is it's been on our to-do item for
Yes,
the last 3 or 4
I think,
months.
and I think we can condense it, I don't, in
Yeah.
the sense that like we already know what it is, we just didn't get it last time.
Yeah.
So I think we just need them to follow.
We can
through
move
with
it
that
up to
language.
if we want to.
Or push it back when we started, but, and have the same ending date, but yeah, I think it's,
My concern is last year we kind of waited a little bit, didn't wait, but we had more questions than we probably thought we had and then we missed it, so.
Oh, we didn't get what we asked.
yeah. So I think as long as we start with receiving what we requested, I think it should actually go faster.
Okay.
But that's kind of a pretty big caveat given what.
So I can take that out, help start it with our legal, based on the feedback that we had from last year, I just gotta find
Well,
that
we
again.
need, Jim actually never did the contract, had it offered last year, I helped, you know, this, when he looked at the contracts, including the director, he's like, this is a terrible contract.
Yeah.
I thought, do you think? And so, he said I'd be willing to help read about it, but we went with another.
We did, that's why I was saying we should go.
So go, we needed Jim, but if we had those old ones,
I still have the files. They're-
just to, I know, just to laugh, just for a
So-
good laugh. with Jim.
I have the files I can reshare.
Maybe, Michelle, you and I, we can.
They're-
align.
And then
We should
Jim-
put the not approved watermark.
Watermark.
It does have employment law experts.
The more I do,
And we did mention diversity, equity, inclusion is a priority for 2021. We just don't have a mission plan for that just yet specifically. And we did, with buildings and grounds report, we were going to have this month, but we pushed it back to
Yeah.
next month.
And then I think for D, we need to figure out and come up with like real actionable goals on that.
Yep. Kind of what, in my mind, I was waiting for a little bit of this strategic mission and vision,
It's gonna
only
come
because
through.
I expected that,
That's
we
where it's
expected that it was going to come
Exactly.
out,
Exactly.
and then we could just take it from there.
Yeah, definitely.
If it doesn't, then we need to come back and figure out
Otherwise, it's
why.
hard for us to act on it if we don't have a
So we'll
focus, so I
put
think
it
that
in.
we're.
Yeah.
I think you're right, it's gonna shake out. Because that should be part of our.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, so we move to 15, plus minus. I think we can finish this up without doing a break if you guys are okay with that. So I have from Eric, who shared plus and minus questions, and I just chose 3 for tonight. So, well, we can start with the format, I guess, the logistics. What worked or didn't for the moving to the YMCA? Anyone? Thoughts?
We've had some big technology problems that we've never had it. We hosted it, MSA.
The bathrooms aren't as easily accessible.
Are not as easy.
Yes. As in, I don't know where they are.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's free.
Michelle, I can't find the bathroom.
And credit tracking to buy something, Michelle?
I like getting out of MSA. I mean, I don't know how the teachers feel, but if you're in the whole day, maybe it's nice for the change of scenery.
I was annoyed.
You were annoyed.
Yes, I was annoyed. Because
Anyone
I already
else?
was at school and then I had to get in my car and then go drive somewhere else to park
That's a
again
good point.
with all my backpack and all my bags. But we're trying, and it's a very pretty thing.
I can see January will not be as fun.
Yes, I agree.
Right.
I also, as a community member, I'm not at school very often, and so when I'm there, it really puts me in the right mindset, like, I like being on campus, and even seeing the kids in the hallway as they're running their buses, that was nice today, so.
Do we do a different room at MSA?
Well, our options are to go back onto stage where apparently we've been before, but we can't do that when there's an
We haven't been on the stage.
All right, Justin said we,
Great
maybe
hall.
he said we
Oh,
could
great
use
hall.
the stage.
Great
Yes.
Great hall,
We've
if
used
you
the
want to
great
sit
hall
on a
before.
stool, we'll
No.
for $2 or $5 and not go back on your chair. That's the problem with the great hall.
And it gets used too.
Well, we could probably trump them, whoever's using it, you know, but sometimes it's robotics or whoever, so it's not comfortable.
We could rock it with some building B.
Yeah. But, yeah, but some of the
I'm not saying we
classrooms
have
in
to, I just was
bigger.
thinking if there were other options on site, but.
Again, no offense, when this room was sold to me, I heard boardroom, I'm thinking like big table, cushy chairs.
Yeah.
This seems pretty similar to MSA, just a little bit.
YMCA, charter school, same budget.
Dan wants his massage chair.
But I mean,
So-
it's nice to have another option, to have spaces where we know it's available and within our school budget. It's free, it
Because it's
allows us to
free.
pay for other things, so it's nice to have free options for
So,
Freeze
so
my
would you
favorite
guys, I guess would the preference be to go back to MSA?
That'd be my preference.
I guess all those in favor,
Yeah.
going back to MSA, kind of a mixture, and then trying something different?
Occasionally.
But because the screen is set up really nicely here, if you wanted to have, you know, one of our World's Best Workforce or doing a, you know, those kinds of meetings where it's more presentation focused, I can totally see this space working,
Yeah.
you know, for something along those lines. Because the great help for that, the projector, the way the lighting works, like, you never quite see the screen very well and on a cart.
I might have changed the layout just a little bit, because if we do have open forum folks come, it might be more
Welcoming.
safe, more welcoming if they're not coming in, you know, right in the front of the whole YouTube stream and everything, so.
Would you like to speak public again?
Yes. That might be my back. Next time if we were allowed to change, just so people could come in
Yeah.
without feeling pressure.
Did you ever check the library? Because I know you can
So the
check out-
library doesn't have a big enough room, I think. Their rooms are all pretty small. But the only other place I was gonna check is the city. They might have cushy chairs, I don't know.
It's not a requirement.
Dan, meet this cushy chair.
So what about Central Park? Because we used to do graduation
Yeah.
there, and then
We
there
probably
are
have to
rooms.
pay for it.
Oh, okay, never mind.
If it's free, I'll go for it, but if we have to
Okay,
pay
you're right,
for
I bet
it.
you have to pay for it.
But I mean, if we're traveling, why wouldn't we use this? I mean, I know we, is it, that was a glitch? Do you
I
it's
think
just
the
a-
Wi-Fi, I would be scared that it would
Okay.
happen again.
Okay.
We haven't, I can't remember us ever having tech problems while we were home. So.
Okay, well, thanks for trying something different, yeah, all
And
right.
thank you for making us try.
Yeah, push it out, definitely, on with it. Good, all right. This is, let's try these questions out. So were we fully engaged tonight? Did you guys feel we were fully engaged?
So I'll just say what I love about this one. There's a book by Kim Scott called Radical Candor. I don't know if all of you have read it, but if you haven't, you should. It's amazing. Just the concept of we do our best work when we are, brutal is probably the wrong word, but really, really honest with each other. And as a board, I think it's a great opportunity not just like self-reflect, but also say, hey, you were on your phone for like half an hour. Did you catch what was going on? Not that anybody's doing that, but it just like gives us all a right to kind of just hold each other accountable to our time. Because we get this once a month, and it's really important.
Yeah.
And I chose the questions before coming, so I'm not singling anyone out of these questions. Because I actually did have one, like, did we violate any of our code of conduct, or were there any fouls? So did anyone see anything that would say, hey, come on? Even when the web went down, I thought we were all pretty respected. Not everyone just didn't disperse, right? So, so we all kind of, anyone have anything that would be comfortable to share that we could have done better in those regards?
Keeping all of the people in the loop for site change. Not everybody knew about the site change, or
Okay.
maybe like letting the community know
Yeah.
earlier about a site change.
Yep.
Or putting a banner, or just something to let them know about the site change.
That's right, because the heading looks about the same as every month, so I think it's
Yeah,
fair
you
to say.
kind of just
oh, we
visually
didn't
sort of
even
like.
see that, yeah.
If it wasn't pointed out to me, I wouldn't have noticed it. I wouldn't know what the heading,
Yeah, because it's always the same, yeah.
It is true, I usually scroll to the agenda.
I was actually thinking of taking you guys' phone numbers down, just because I know there's a lot of group chats going on, but maybe I could just like for this one, I could have said, hey, reminder, please don't show up at MSA, just a quick one like that, you guys all got the text, because we don't get so many emails. Something to think about, but yeah, fair point. Last one, did we acknowledge achievements and celebrate them?
You know, I mentioned a couple people, but when I was thinking about mentioning our Boy Scout project and Joelle, I was remembering a board meeting I used to attend on a regular basis where there was always something to celebrate, like it was part of the agenda. There was always a student or a teacher or a group to recognize. Now, it added time to the meeting, but it was really, really nice. Yeah, it's really quick. I mean, this particular board got groups in and out. They got to shake hands with board members, take their picture, and it was like boom, boom, boom. It was, quick and nice. And I feel like that might be a nice thing for us to consider.
Maybe the volleyball team.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And the football team, they had their final home game 2 weeks ago.
59 to 6.
Are you saying to
And
invite
our girls soccer team is
Yes.
recognized.
So
I
if
had to
somebody
check.
was going to be recognized, we might tell them ahead of time, we'd like to recognize you at the next month's board meeting. Could you come? We need, your spot is 6:15 to 6:20, you know, I mean, it's pretty specific. And people will usually come, they bring their family. It's really nice.
Easy to do, and it's nice. Yeah, very good. Also helps with community engagement. Yeah.
Right,
Right.
absolutely. We have a lot of things to celebrate that don't get celebrated because we're just so busy.
Yeah.
This would force us to take a minute to.
Well, then
Anything else?
speaking of the things that we have that were a bit of a challenge tonight, I think that we should give a solid thanks to Mr. Gearing and his student tech crew who will come to your classroom quickly and try to help you with all of the random things that George likes to do. So I think that that would be an excellent team to recognize. They do a lot of work behind the scenes and they're always running between buildings and helping out the students with their laptops, and I think that that would be something really cool. I mean, we have a lot of things to celebrate, but I think sometimes they're unsung heroes.
It's a good idea just to have like a standing, you know, we can, as a board, talk about who we want to recognize this next month. And it's a good idea. Great, thank you.
I love these levels showing up.
Yeah,
I know.
Anyone, anything else? Achievements? Did we, any comments, questions? Otherwise, good job on the board meeting tonight. Thanks for all your preparation, hard work. I would like to make a motion to end the meeting at 7:32 p.m.
I think we should celebrate that.
That's impressive.
Second, anyone? Yeah, you're a second, Jen? Okay, Jennifer seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Great. Motion adjourns. Thanks, everyone.
Don't say anything, because there's always one person.
If you're on board, jump in, I'll take you. Okay.
I got one placard.
Should I just go to Bill?
Oh, boy.
I know this just.
Yeah, well, I